To round out our discussions with the mayoral candidates on this Saturday's elections, I'm welcoming to the studio Lyn MacLaren. How you doing?
Oh, great, Sam. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for inviting me for breakfast.
I'm afraid we're a bit light on for eggs and toast, but that's okay. We can manage, I think.
All right. We can start slow.
We've got the breakfast of champions. We've got Golden Eggs and the coffee, the magic wake-up bean juice.
Nice hot Joe.
That's the one. Now, Lyn, you've been, from my understanding, very politically active in your time here, living down here in Conjalling, Albany. Why now are you going further into a life of service to the community?
Well, I think you got to walk your path, Sam. And when I came down here, which was a long time dream to live in Albany, I finally made it, made the break from the metro area. And I didn't have any intentions to be this politically active at that time. But what I did see was that there was a proposal to clear bush, which was very close to where I was staying. And I gradually got more and more involved with the community group that was trying to save that patch of very special forest, which was still remaining, surrounded by houses, the creek down on one side and houses on the other side. And I thought, okay, I can help here. I've done this before. I know how systems work. So I got involved by going to council meetings, and I asked questions about what was going on and what the rationale was for clearing that land. And I suppose I just gradually learned that things need to change here in Albany, that there is not enough protection for the beautiful biodiversity that is here, and the things that I love about Albany, and as I've come to find out many others love about Albany, are at risk. And that's why I wanted to throw my hat in the ring when Dennis Wellington decided to retire and the council elections came upon us. The current council was not helping. The current council needed change.
Right. Okay, so fighting words from the off, out of the gate. And we are talking about Range Road here, specifically the Yakamai Forest. And it has been a topic with each candidate, and we've canvassed and heard their different viewpoints on it. Would you have Range Road just not go ahead or rerouted? Or
Well, you know, it's a very interesting question. And when I asked about and by the way, it's great that every candidate has to talk about Yakamaya, and that proves that our campaign has already succeeded, because this council was ignoring our issue, even though we had thousands of people on a petition. Yeah. I would like to unpick the reasons that they want that road. When I asked for the traffic stats, they couldn't give them to me.
Right.
I went to Main Roads for them. They couldn't give them to me. I asked for the traffic projections because you might be aware, Sam, but I've spent a lot of time in Parliament fighting infrastructure projects that had very little rationale beneath them and changing the value system of the decision makers. And this is what I found here. So we need to know. They say we need that road to develop North Albany. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's look at that. What development is proposed for North Albany, and when's that occurring? And why do we need that road in that position to carry traffic? I found when you really ask traffic planners for their rationale, sometimes they're based on 100-year-old principles, like everybody has to go into York Street every day to work. You know, so, and everybody lives out in a 3x2, house in a stripped suburb which has no trees, and they like getting in their car and commuting into the city. So these basic principles that tend to underpick or underlay planning decisions need to be questioned in today's world when we have we have overwhelming evidence that that's not the way we can be sustainable on the planet. In fact, that kind of thinking has brought us to the brink of devastating climate change and extinction crisis.
And, yeah, we only have ourselves to blame on those counts, really.
And we need to question. It's okay to question. It's
totally.
okay to question these ideas and say, are we doing this the best way? Is this the best way to live in Albany? And I already know, from my perspective, I don't think it is. And what I'm saying to the people of Albany is, what do you reckon? What do you reckon? Do you want to keep doing things the way we've done them? Or do you want to question it and bring forward the values that we've all come to embrace of loving, the environment that we're living in and actually nurturing it and doing something to make it better instead of continuing the same destructive path?
On that point, then, is the fact that we are growing. The city is growing. Projections are 50,000 in the next decade at least. And to do that, infrastructure has to keep pace, and not just keep pace, but outstrip that pace to a degree and be preemptive. Where would you like to bring a difference of point of view in the planning systems to allay the fears of, and also to inspire people to move here? Because some of the questions I've been asking each candidate has been around facilitating more childcare, the housing crisis, the crunch at the moment, airport upgrades even, and I suppose Range. I keep wanting to say View Range Road. That's out at Tenterden. That's no good. Range Road to open up the housing tracks, like you say, up Catalina and back at Hazard Road and so on. What would you bring to it to try and shift the thinking around that?
Well, one of the things you need to question is the projections of growth. Now, we currently have this crisis of housing supply. We currently have no housing for workers and no childcare for workers. That's where we need to focus our attention. And our attention should be on creating a community that can sustain workers and can invite them to live here and, for their full life cycle, have children, go to school, even when they're, out of school, enjoy living here. And I've met a lot of people over this short campaign, and most of them are here for a reason, and that is to enjoy the environment and the lifestyle. So that is a primary goal. We don't want to recreate some busy metro, car-focused metropolis that no longer looks like Albany. We want Albany to grow as Albany. And I think the first step is surveying and identifying the natural resources that we need to protect, and we lock them away. Did you know currently all that forest, you drive down Ulster Road and you look up to the left, all of that is urban deferred. They would have that roof-to-roof house. If you've been down in Yucca, there is not a tree to be seen down Galley Street.
Over the back there.
Yeah. So that is not the development that people are moving to Albany to live in. People are moving to Albany to live in a beautiful location in a sustainable house. We can't keep building. We can't keep making decisions the same way. So what we need to do first is lock away what's important to us. We need to identify the water catchment. We need to identify, stop any industrial, proposals that threaten our water catchment. We need to look at surveying and protecting our beautiful conservation areas and those landscapes that are so, pivotal to developing the icon, which is Albany. And then what happens is developers have to figure out how to build on the remaining footprint. And the remaining footprint, by the way, according to our own strategy, is where we should be focusing, already cleared land. So if you have a zone which says you can build here and it's got bush on it, and it's no different from a paddock, a developer we're seeing more and more, buying that bush, clearing that bush, developing on that bush, instead of the other cleared land, which is already available. And so we have to incentivize building on the existing cleared footprint.
Yeah, right. Yeah, well, totally. Urban infill, recycling, reusing, repurposing older buildings, older existing building land. We have a lot of land going to waste around here at the moment. The old woolen mill site up there, contaminated site. But we're seeing that these days isn't necessarily a blockade to redevelopment, because the old wool stores down on the harbour have been successfully asbestos-proofed and removed, and that's going to be developed as well. Why? So that would prevent us expanding outside of our current sort of like urban and rural sort of zone. And by using the infill, to repurpose existing instead of expanding out.
The way we talk about it in terms of sustainable planning, I believe, is a smart city. We become, and I know that has other connotations, but it's about smart growth. It's about identifying your food zone and protecting your food zone so that you can still grow food locally. And thank goodness Albany is still growing food. Because I was up in the South Metro region, and a lot of the Coburn market gardens have been filled in with housing.
I grew up in Spearwood, Hamilton Hill.
Oh, so you know it well.
Yeah, the market gardens are just about non-existent now.
And what that does is it increases food miles, and food miles are carbon miles, and that's what we want to shift around. So it's not a simple matter of saying, I'd identify this patch of land and build apartments on it. It is not that simple. It is taking the best of the development industry, which, by the way, is already streets ahead of us, and developing, developing for a modern world that is climate change conscious.
Yep.
So sustainable housing, energy efficient housing. When I looked for a place to live here, I just wanted a small house. I was a single person household, and there wasn't hardly anything available, So a mix of housing. So how do we incentivize developers so they create a mix of housing? We also need housing for big families, more than, a 3x1. So it is incentivizing options. So we do need apartments. We do need small houses. We need big houses, but they have to be sustainable. They have to be responsible,
environmentally responsible.
And they can't, and in my view, and there should be a presumption, which is a quote from our strategy, a presumption against clearing.
That's an excellent presumption. Yeah, because we have a unique environment down here, and it is what attracts most of us to this place to start with.
Yeah.
Not just the ambiance of, small town and old town. Well, I know you're from North America, and there's a lot older places there, having been there myself. But it's as far as we go, we are the oldest European settlement in Western Australia.
We've got a lot to offer. We've got character. We've got heritage. We've got beauty. We've got a thriving art scene. To rival any in WA, if not the best. And, it's about how we celebrate that, how we focus on that, how we turn our attention away from, the roof-to-roof housing developments and into our cultural development, into how we want to live on the waterfront. There's a lot we can do in the city, and it's not just down to the mayor to make that happen. There's a full council that makes decisions on development proposals as they come up, and that's what you and I are talking about now. But there's other ways of representing our community that I think Albany's crying out for. Albany's crying out for people who genuinely listen to their concerns, who can work to develop the vision for Albany. That is something that I think, for some reason, they feel disconnected from the current council. There are some pockets which feel good, but other pockets feel like they haven't quite been represented well enough.
And that comes down to communication. Basically, it's not just lead the council, but to communicate with the community which you represent, both ways too, from the community to the city and the city to the community. And I suppose, Dennis has many wondrous things about him and a few faults, but I always felt he was a reasonably, not a bad communicator, but could have done a better job maybe.
I can't comment on Dennis's performance. He's obviously succeeded in being a mayor for a long time, and he was obviously, doing it well enough that people kept re-electing him. So I'm not going to comment on Dennis's abilities, but it is a citywide thing, because it's not just the mayor; it's also the team he has around him, the culture that you develop, the culture of inclusivity that I can see, happening in pockets. And I just think we need to focus more on that and celebrate it. I mean, Albany is a great place. It's got wonderful people. We're attracted to live here. We want to contribute to the place that we now call home. And so it's how to capture that, how to tap it, and how to foster the creativity that already exists here. And, that's not just down to the mayor. It's like down to our culture. Yeah. And we also have one of the highest performing council staffs. So, it's about making sure that, we're staying on track and making sure that they're delivering what the community wants. And it seems like they're doing a good job. And
in that respect, that is partly the role of the mayor, is to communicate, like I say, from city to the community, but also for the city to hear back from the community through the mayor, because that's the point, isn't it? It's the titular head, the figurehead, and the one that comes to mind whenever somebody thinks of local government. Well, they get the most opportunities to speak. That's just basically it. They get the most opportunities to speak. They're invited to things. They have duties to represent Albany, and so it does matter who you put in that seat. It does matter. And what we saw from the latest community survey that all councils have to do, and we've been doing for a long time, over decades, I think, a decade, is every 2 years we go out to the community. We say, okay, 5,000 randomly chosen people. We say, what did you think about our performance in these areas? And what we saw in the latest one is that a dramatic drop-off on almost across the board. We were considered a high-performing council, and now we're not. And now communication communicating the vision that Albany holds was rated the lowest. Now, we've fallen off our game. It doesn't mean we can't get back there. And clearly we had a record of going up and up and up, and then we've had a dramatic drop-off of, in some cases 8 or 12 points. But that's something we can work on, and that's something that I believe I've got the skills to do. Definitely. Very clear enunciator of your point. Lyn MacLaren, it's been wonderful to have you in here. Best of luck on Saturday. And folks, don't forget, the Civic Centre down at the city offices is open to come in and place your vote. And I think it was Scott just said that if you post in your postal, the post office is not sending it to Perth. They're going to hold on to them and deliver them on the day. They bundle them now if you go to Sandford Road or the York Street Post Office. So if you get your ballot there, it will be sure to be counted. And Sam, I don't know if anyone else has mentioned it, but to date there's less than 70% of so 70% of people have not yet voted. So that means 70% of the 29,000 voters are still undecided, have not put their ballot in. Are they undecided? I don't know. If you're undecided, call me. If it's not a question I can answer, you want to talk to one of the other candidates, I will make that happen, because we have a low participation rate across WA. Across all local governments in a voluntary election. We do get a low participation rate, but right now we have 32% people have put their ballot in. They've said what they want. Now, I think it would be also an achievement of all of us 7 mayoral candidates if we
bump that number up. This is a good competition. This is a good choice. You know, you've got an option.
And it's a rare opportunity too, no incumbent mayor to run against.
That's right.
A clear seat, empty seat.
And we're all getting plenty of opportunities to communicate our vision. So, you know, Albany, make a choice and, you know, be engaged and be involved. And my personal view is optimistic and positive, and I would love to see you, you know, put me first. I'd love to see you put me first in mayor and on the council ballot, because in the event that I wouldn't be successful at mayor, then I would get a chance of being on council and raising those concerns that I know many of you share.
Lyn MacLaren, thank you very much for coming into Gold MX this morning. And please, if you get to be mayor, keep us in your good books.
I'd love to have breakfast with you regularly, Sam, if
sounds
that happens.
Brilliant. And we've got a song for you picked out, and I didn't have the version that you were hoping for, but I do have the original. It comes from an album in 1970. The album's called Ladies of the Canyon, and it's Joni Mitchell, Big Yellow Taxi. Thanks a lot, man.
Thank you.